Hi there. So, we're talking about fractions today, and some of this might be kind of review, and that's okay. We're going to talk about fractions and how they relate to decimals. So, let's go back to the basics. If this is review for you, that's okay. I'll explain why it's important later. So, this line is called the divisor, and it means the same thing as divided by. If you have a number up here, that's called the numerator. If you have a number down here, that's called the denominator. And so if you have a number up here and a number down here, that means this one divided by this one. So we all know that 1 divided by 1 is the same as 1. So this equals 1. And in fractions, we often call this a whole because it's 1 and 1 is a whole. Now, what if you have a different number in your denominator? This is the same as saying 1 divided by 2. And that's like if you have a whole pizza, you cut it in half, and now you have this part. And so that's the same as a half. And you can have other fractions too, of course. You could have 1/3, you could have 1/4. That's also sometimes called a quarter. You have 1/5, 1/6, 1/7, 1/8, 1/9. And the one we're especially interested in today is 1/10. And of course, you don't have to have the same number up here the whole time. You could have another number like 2. And you could have 2/10. Now, here's the cool thing. What if you multiply or divide one side and the other, you can get a similar number that means the same amount. So if we divide 2 by 2 and we divide 10 by 2, I know 2 divided by 2 is 1. I know 10 divided by 2 is 5. So 2/10 is the same as 1/5. Let's go ahead and get rid of all that. Now, we're looking at decimal places today. So let's get a number out there. Let's get 1. And now there's a period after the 1. And we don't call that a period in math. We call that a decimal point. And sometimes you'll see numbers past the decimal point. And you might be wondering what those are. I like to think of it as, well, we'll go to that later. So we have numbers that are less than 1 over here. Now, let's look at point value. So we know this is the ones, this is the tens, hundreds, thousandths, 10,000ths, 100,000ths, millions. So if you have this number, you have 1,111,101. Actually, I'm going to put that back there. I'm going to make it a cool million, though. And with this many zeros, it can get a little daunting. So that's why people like to put commas there. So, oh, no. What if you have numbers going back here? So I like to think of it as like the upside down. If you're a fan of the show Stranger Things, you know there's the normal world where everything's normal. And then there's the upside down where things work kind of backwards. Well, after the decimal point, things work kind of backwards. So you have your 1 here, and that is the same. You don't have a 1 on this side, but you have tens here and a tenths here. Now notice I said tenths, not tens. Tens is here. This is tenths. I don't have a lisp. This is hundredths, thousandths, 10,000ths, 100,000ths, and 1,000,000ths. And so far, we have nothing back here. That's okay. So what does it mean if we have a 1 here? Now, a lot of people will call that 0.1. So if you have this number, you have 1,000,000.1. We do not call it that in this class. We call it 1,000,001/10. Why do I call it that? Because remember what 1/10 is from your fractions. 1 divided by 10. If you have a number here, it's 1 in the 10ths place, it's 1/10. This is also 1/10. And guess what? 1/10 equals 1/10. I say it that way so that you don't even have to think about it. You know, oh, okay, here's 1/10. Oh, and it's equal to 1/10. Kaboom, boom. Now, what if you have, we're going to turn this into a 0, and 1 here, that's 1/100th. Easy as that. And those of you who work with money a lot will know, okay, well, if I have a penny, I can write it like that. And a penny is 1/100th of a dollar. It takes 100 pennies to get a dollar. So a penny is 1/100th of a dollar, just like this is 1/100th of 1. What if we have another number here, like 5? Is that 5? Some people were saying that's 5/50ths. Afraid not. It is always going to be in the 10ths place. It's not in the 50ths place. There is no 50ths place. There's a 10ths place, so it's going to be 5/10ths. And here's something cool. You'll notice, remember when we divided 2/10ths and got 1/5? Well, this one, both of these are divisible by 5. So I can divide the 5 by 5 and get 1. I can divide the 10 by 5 and get 2. And then we have 1/2. So actually, 0.5 is the same as 1/2. And, I said 0.5. 5/10ths is the same as 1/2. And you'll remember, if we're working with money, if you have 50 cents, it works like that. But what about this 0 here? Now we're not talking about 5/10ths, we're talking about 50/100ths. So we write the 0 there when we deal with money just because we think of everything in hundredths, because every cent is 1/100th. So if you have 50/100ths, and I'm going to actually write it again down here just because I'm running out of space up there. If you have 50/100ths, so we're going to divide, I don't need an equal sign. I need to create 2 division signs. So anytime you have a number with a 0 in the ones place, you know you can divide it by 10. So 50 divided by 10 equals 5. 100 divided by 10 equals 10. Now we have 5/10ths. Both of those are divisible by 5. 5 divided by 5 equals, we already did it up here. If you're wondering how I know it so fast, it's because I did it 2 seconds ago. 5 divided by 5 is 1. 10 divided by 5 is 2. And we have 1/2. So 50/100ths, 5/10ths, 1/2. All the same. And the way you express that as a decimal is 5/10ths. You put the decimal place and then a 5. If you have any other questions, please let me know. And I'll see you in class tomorrow. Thank you so much.